The caseworker grabbed my arm before I could even push through the double doors. "Mr. Harmon," she whispered, pulling me sideways into a narrow alcove near the reception desk. Her name tag read Sylvia Oakes, Resident Intake Coordinator. I had never seen this woman before in my life. "Before you go in there, please, you need to hear something first." I remember thinking she had the look of someone carrying a secret that had gotten too heavy. Tired eyes. Hands that wouldn't stay still. "What is it?" I said. "My son called me. He said my wife had a fall. He said it was serious." She glanced down the corridor toward the administrative wing, then back at me. "Your wife didn't have a fall, Mr. Harmon." I didn't understand what she was saying. I stood there in my jacket, car keys still in my hand, and I just stared at her. "Then what happened?" She leaned in close enough that I could hear the tremble in her breath. "Someone brought her here, with paperwork, signed paperwork for a long-term placement evaluation." I felt something shift under my feet that wasn't physical. "What kind of paperwork?" "The kind," she said carefully, "that only next of kin can sign. My name is Donald Harmon. I am 67 years old. For 31 years I worked as a forensic accountant, the kind of work where you follow money the way a hunting dog follows a scent, through ledgers and shell accounts and wire transfers that loop back on themselves like bad knots. I retired 4 years ago. My wife, June, has early-stage dementia. Not severe. She forgets appointments, loses track of days, repeats herself in conversation. But she knows who I am. She knows her own home. She has never once been confused about that. We have one son. His name is Nathan. He is 38 years old and he married a woman named Felicia about 6 years back. I will be honest with you. I never fully trusted Felicia. That is not a thing I am proud of because I tried. Lord knows I tried. But there was something behind her eyes that never quite matched her smile, and after 30 years of following money through other people's lies, I had learned to notice that particular gap. I told June once, early on. She touched my hand and said, "Dawn, you see fraud everywhere. Try to just see a woman who loves our son." So I tried. I kept my mouth shut and I tried. I should have listened to myself. The morning it started, I was in my workshop. I build furniture, nothing fancy, just clean joinery, solid wood, something I picked up after retirement to keep my hands busy. I had the radio on low and I was sanding the edge of a walnut coffee table when my phone rang. "Nathan, Dad." His voice was strange, clipped. "I need you to come to Cedarbrook right now. Mom had a fall this morning. She's okay, but they want to do an evaluation. I'm already here with Felicia. Come as fast as you can." Cedarbrook is a memory care and assisted living facility on Route 9, about 20 minutes from our house in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. I had driven past it 100 times, never had any reason to go inside. I turned off the radio. I set down the sandpaper. I got in the car. I did not think to ask why June had been taken there, instead of to Lancaster General, which was our hospital, the one where her neurologist had an office on the 2nd floor. The one where every record of her condition lived in a file with her name on it. I did not think to ask that until Sylvia Oakes stopped me in the alcove near the reception desk and told me my wife had not fallen at all. "Walk me through it," I told her. We were standing in that narrow space between a fake potted ficus and a wall painted the color of oatmeal. All of it. Sylvia looked at the door again. Through the glass panel, I could see the lobby, the front desk, a hallway with soft institutional lighting. "I've been an intake coordinator here for 11 years, she said. "I've processed hundreds of placements. I know what the paperwork looks like when a family brings someone in under genuine circumstances, and I know what it looks like when something is wrong." She paused. "This morning your son and his wife came in with your wife. Mrs. Harmon was confused, not distressed, just confused. She kept asking where you were. They told her you had already agreed to this, that this was planned, that you would come later to help her get settled. I felt my hands go cold. She was asking for me. She was asking for you," Sylvia confirmed. "The consent forms, the ones authorizing the placement evaluation, and further down the line the long-term residency agreement, were signed by your son as next of kin under a power of attorney document." She hesitated. "Mr. Harmon, I looked up your wife's file before I called you. You are listed as her primary healthcare proxy. You have been since 2019. A power of attorney signed by your son alone without your co-signature is not valid for decisions of this nature under Pennsylvania law. You called me?" "I called the number on file for the household. You answered." She folded her hands in front of her. "I want you to understand. I could lose my job for this. But I have a mother. She's 72. And I looked at Mrs. Harmon sitting in that intake room asking for her husband, and She stopped. I just couldn't. I looked down at my car keys. The little brass keychain June had given me 20 years ago. A tiny compass because she said I always knew true north. I turned it over in my palm. Where is she right now? I said. Room 4 in the family consultation wing. Your son is with her. His wife stepped out to the parking lot about 10 minutes ago. She's been on her phone. I breathed in slowly. And the power of attorney document. Can I see it? Sylvia reached into the folder she was carrying and handed me a single page. I read it in under 30 seconds. I had spent 31 years reading documents. I knew what a real power of attorney looked like. I knew the specific language, the notarization requirements, the witness signatures that Pennsylvania law required. I had, in fact, helped draft June's actual healthcare proxy documents with our attorney back in 2019. What I was holding was not that document. The notary stamp was from a Phillips Tax and Notary Services in Harrisburg. The signature above my wife's name was close, very close. But the loop on the J was wrong. June always made a particular open loop on her J, slightly tilted left, from a penmanship class she took in 4th grade. This J was closed at the top, round, mechanical, like someone had practiced it but not enough times. My wife had not signed this document. I did not walk into that consultation room right away. I stood in the alcove for another 3 minutes and I thought, this is what I have learned in 67 years. The worst thing you can do when someone has played a card against you is to let them see that you know. The moment they know that you know, they either panic and destroy the evidence or they lawyer up so fast you can never get close enough to the truth. Nathan was my son. Felicia, I suspected, but I did not yet know exactly whose hand had guided this. I needed to be very careful. I asked Sylvia for a pen and her personal cell number. I photographed the POA document with my phone before she put it back in the folder. I asked her if she would be willing in time to provide a statement about what she had observed today. She said yes without hesitating. Then I straightened my jacket, put a worried expression on my face, and walked through those double doors like a man who had no idea what was coming. June's face when she saw me, I will carry that with me for the rest of my life. She was sitting in a chair in the consultation room, still in her good blue cardigan, the one she wears when she thinks she's going somewhere important. Her hands were folded in her lap. Nathan was beside her, and when I walked in, he stood up quickly and started talking. Dad, thank God. I was just about to call again. Mom had a bad morning. She got disoriented. She couldn't remember where she was. We thought it'd be best to bring her here for a professional evaluation. Dawn. June reached for my hand. I kept telling them to call you first. I kept saying, Donald will know what to do. We have Dr. Patel. We have a plan. I know, sweetheart. I sat down next to her and held her hand. Her fingers were cold. I'm here now. Nathan watched me. He had his father's nose and his mother's eyes, and right now those eyes were doing the calculation that I recognized from 30 years of watching people in depositions. The calculation of how much does he know. It was a scary morning, he said carefully. Felicia and I thought, where is Felicia? She just stepped out for some air. She'll be right back. Of course, I said. I smiled at him. I kept my voice completely level. Well, I'm here now. Let's talk about what the doctors think. What happened over the next 4 weeks, I did not talk about to anyone except my attorney, a woman named Patricia Gruber, who had handled estate law for our family for 15 years and who had the specific quality I needed in that moment. She was quiet, she was thorough, and she did not panic. The first thing Patricia did was confirm what I already knew. The power of attorney document Nathan had presented to Cedarbrook was a forgery. The notary stamp was real. Phillips Tax and Notary Services was a legitimate business. But when Patricia sent an investigator to confirm, the notary had no record of ever meeting June Harmon. Someone had obtained a legitimate stamp impression and reproduced it. It was a good forgery, but not good enough. The second thing we discovered took longer. I had kept meticulous joint financial records with June for our entire marriage. Everything in one spreadsheet, updated monthly, old-fashioned and deliberate. When I sat down with those records and looked at the past 18 months, I found something. Our investment account, a retirement portfolio managed through Vanguard, holding approximately $340,000, had been accessed 6 times in the past year through the online portal. Small inquiries at first. account balance checks. Then, 3 months ago, a change of contact email on file. The new email address was one I had never seen before. It was a Gmail account, and the username contained a variation of Nathan's name spelled backward. I am a forensic accountant. I have cracked more sophisticated schemes than this. I did not freeze the account. I did not alert Vanguard. I noted the email address, documented it, and I waited. The conversation that broke something permanent in me happened on a Thursday evening, 5 days after the Cedar Brook incident. I had installed a small audio recorder in the kitchen, legal in Pennsylvania, where one-party consent applies, and I was the one party. Nathan and Felicia came for dinner. I made pot roast. June set the table. It was, on the surface, an ordinary evening. After June went to bed, the three of us sat at the table, and Nathan poured himself a second glass of wine and said, "Dad, I really think you need to consider that Mom's condition is progressing faster than Dr. Patel is letting on. Felicia has been doing research. There's a difference between what doctors tell family and what's actually sustainable at home." Felicia nodded at the right moments. Her hands were very still on the tabletop. "She's fine at home," I said. "She's going to need more care," Nathan said. "And the reality is that care costs money, a lot of money. And the house. What about the house?" He paused. "If Mom needed full-time residential care, the house would need to be liquidated. It's just math, Dad." I looked at my son. I thought about the compass keychain and what June had said about True North. I thought about a 4th grade penmanship class and the open loop on a J. "You're probably right," I said. "Let me think about it." I heard what I needed to hear that night. On the recorder, I caught Felicia, standing in our front hallway waiting for Nathan to get his jacket, talking quietly on her phone. "He's starting to come around." "Yeah. A few more weeks, I think. We just have to be patient." She was not talking to Nathan. He was 10 feet away from her, still in the dining room. I traced the number she called. It took Patricia's investigator 12 days. The number belonged to a man named Gary Ostrowski, whom I had never heard of, who turned out to be Felicia's first husband. A marriage she had never mentioned, dissolved in 2015 in a divorce that included allegations of financial fraud by both parties. The case had been settled out of court, and the records sealed, but not before Patricia found a public court index entry that told us enough. This was not the first time Felicia had done something like this. I want to be honest about something, because I think people hear a story like this, and they imagine the person at the center of it feels some kind of clean, clarifying anger, the kind of emotion that makes everything simple and forward-moving. That is not what I felt. What I felt mostly was grief. Nathan was my son. I held him when he was 20 minutes old in a hospital room in Harrisburg on a February morning when the temperature outside was 9 degrees, and I remember thinking that I had never understood before that moment what the word responsible actually meant. Not as a concept, as a physical weight in your arms. I had coached his little league team. I had stayed up until 2 in the morning helping him understand calculus. I had lent him money when he and Felicia were first married, and their finances were rocky, and I had not asked for it back, because you don't, because he was my son. I sat alone in my workshop the night after I got the investigator's report, and I looked at the walnut coffee table. I had been sanding the morning this all began, and I let myself feel what I actually felt, which was something I do not have a clean word for. Somewhere between mourning and fury and a very old, tired love that did not know what to do with itself anymore. Then I went inside, washed my hands, and called Patricia Gruber. The mechanism by which we moved was careful and exact. Patricia filed a complaint with the Pennsylvania Department of Aging's Elder Abuse Reporting Unit. The forgery of the POA document constituted elder financial abuse under Pennsylvania statute, a felony. She simultaneously contacted Vanguard's fraud division with documentation of the unauthorized account access, and the email change, which Vanguard's own security team confirmed, had been initiated from an IP address registered to a property in Harrisburg. An apartment, we later learned, associated with Gary Ostrowski. I reported the notary fraud to the Pennsylvania Department of State's Bureau of Enforcement and Investigation, which oversees notaries. I changed every financial account password, restored the correct contact email on the Vanguard account, and had Patricia draft an updated healthcare proxy document for June, and me witnessed, notarized, and filed with our county courthouse, which created a public record. I did not confront Nathan directly, not yet. What I did was invite him and Felicia to dinner one final time. A Sunday. I made June's pot roast recipe, the one she taught me 20 years ago, the one Nathan used to ask for on his birthday. I set the table the way June liked it, with the good placemats and the water glass that had a small chip on one that June always gave to herself because she said imperfect things deserved to be used. They arrived at 6. Felicia was wearing a blazer, which I noticed because she never wore a blazer to our house. She was dressed for something. She thought she was dressed for a conversation in which I was finally going to agree to talk about the next steps for Mom's care. We ate. We made conversation. June talked about the birds she'd been watching at the feeder, a pair of cardinals that had been coming every morning. Nathan asked about my woodworking. Felicia was pleasant in the careful, effortful way of someone performing pleasantness. After dessert, I excused myself to get coffee and came back with 2 things: a cup of coffee and a manila envelope, which I set in the center of the table. "What's that?" Nathan said. "Something Patricia put together," I said. I sat down. "I want you both to look at it before we talk." The envelope contained a copy of the forged POA document with the signature discrepancy annotated, a printout of the unauthorized Vanguard account access log, a printout of the email change record with the IP address highlighted, a 1-page summary of Gary Ostrowski's background prepared by Patricia's investigator, and a copy of the elder financial abuse complaint that had already been filed with the Department of Aging. I watched my son's face as he read. I watched Felicia's face as she read. There is a specific kind of silence that falls when someone realizes the trap is already closed. I know that silence from 30 years of depositions. It is not the silence of thinking, it is the silence of calculation failing. Nathan looked up at me. His face had gone gray. "Dad, I want Felicia to finish reading first," I said quietly. She read to the end. She set the papers down with hands that were no longer still. "The Department of Aging complaint was filed 11 days ago," I said. "The Vanguard fraud report was filed 10 days ago. Patricia tells me that based on the documentary evidence, the district attorney's office in Dauphin County will likely be reaching out within the next 2 to 4 weeks." I picked up my coffee cup. "I wanted you to hear it from me first, rather than from them." Nathan said, "Dad, please, just let me. I am not going to be speaking with you about this outside of the presence of counsel," I said. "That is Patricia's advice, and it is also mine. What I will say right now, tonight, to both of you is this." I looked at my son. "I am going to be honest. It cost me something to hold his gaze. It cost me more than the money ever would have. You are welcome to stay in this house until the end of the month. After that, I need you to find other arrangements. The alarm code will be changed on the 1st. Patricia will be in touch about the formal matters." Felicia stood up first. She picked up her bag. Her face had settled into something I could not read. Not remorse, not anger, something more controlled than either. She said, "June," in the direction of the living room, where my wife had gone to watch her evening program, and then she stopped and she didn't say anything else, and she walked to the front door and waited. Nathan sat for another moment. He was looking at the manila envelope. When he finally stood up, he was not looking at me, and I realized I did not know if he would ever look at me directly again. At the door, he stopped. He turned. He looked at his mother through the doorway to the living room. She was watching the Cardinals' documentary she'd recorded, a lamp on soft behind her, completely unaware of what had just happened at her dinner table. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he left. I sat at the table alone for a while. The chip on the water glass caught the light. I thought about a February morning and 9 degrees outside, and the weight of something new in my arms that I did not yet know how to hold. The DA's office made contact 6 weeks later. The case was referred to the Elder Financial Abuse Unit. The forged power of attorney document, the unauthorized financial account access, and the evidence of coordination with a third party, Gary Ostrowski, who was separately interviewed, resulted in formal charges being filed against both Nathan and Felicia. Elder financial abuse, forgery of a legal document, and unauthorized access to financial accounts. Pennsylvania takes elder abuse seriously. These are not misdemeanors. Felicia's attorney negotiated a plea arrangement. Nathan's attorney advised him to cooperate with the investigation. I will not say more about the legal process than that, because it is ongoing and Patricia has advised me accordingly. The Vanguard account is fully secured. June's healthcare proxy is on file with the county. Our house is still our house. June still watches the Cardinals every morning. She still calls the chipped glass hers. I finished the walnut coffee table 3 weeks ago. It took longer than I planned. I kept putting it down and picking it back up, but I got there. It is sitting in our living room now, and June puts her tea on it every evening, and she said it was the most beautiful piece of furniture she had ever seen, which is not true, but she meant it, and that is enough. People sometimes say that exposing a betrayal is a kind of victory. I understand why they say that. But the honest accounting of it, and I am, in the end, an accountant, is more complicated. I won. The money is safe. The law did what it was designed to do, and I am grateful for that, deeply and without reservation. But what I sit with, in the quiet of the workshop or the long evenings when June has gone to bed early, is the other column on the ledger, the one that does not balance out. They thought I was old. They thought old meant slow, meant trusting, meant easy. They were wrong about all of that. But they were my family, and that part, no verdict repairs.